This is Covering the Spread, part of the FanDuel Podcast Network.
Although my focus on Sunday will be focused entirely on motorsports with the Monaco Grand Prix, Indy 500, hopefully some NASCAR too, there's also big stuff popping over on the English Premier League. It is the final match week of the year, which means 10 matches all going on simultaneously. We're going to break down those matches with Austan Kas getting his read on those, and then we'll talk some baseball later on as well. Welcome on into Covering the Spread. That's right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network and numberFire.com. My name is Jim Sanas. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire, joined here as mentioned by Austan Kas. You can check him out on Twitter at Austan Kas. You can find his work over at numberFire.com, including an EPL betting guide for match week 38. Austan, thriller of a week coming up on Sunday. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Jim?
I am phenomenal. I think this weekend is among the best sports weekends of the entire year. Hopefully we get some better weather in Charlotte than what's in the forecast right now to get some NASCAR going on out there. But even if we don't get that, I mean, Monaco, Indy, EPL stuff all going on top of baseball, hopefully some basketball too. I think that's kind of delightful. Now, my question for you is logistically, how does this work? Like when they have 10 matches going on concurrently, can you like pay attention to all of them at once? Or is it like, because I have like massive attention deficit issues. Can you pay attention or is it just chaos at all times?
It's definitely chaos. It won't be as crazy this year because there's not as many teams with stuff on the line as usual. Yeah. But normally NBC puts a lot of the key games on their various networks. And then just on NBC alone, they'll bounce around from game to game.
Okay.
So a little bit of like a red zone type feel.
Yeah.
For this final Sunday.
I love it. Well, that is fantastic. Should be a fun viewing experience. You can have this on before Indy starts even actually, because the matches kick off at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. So we're talking about those. We'll talk about, as mentioned, some baseball later on. If you're looking for some breakdowns of Monaco, some talk about the Indy 500, we had Dr. Nick Giffen of the Action Network on yesterday, breaking down his thoughts on this year's primarily the Indy 500. We also did talk some NASCAR with Nick as well. You can find that over on the FanDuel YouTube page and on the Covering the Spread podcast feed. Make sure you are subscribed on either YouTube or the podcast platform of your choice. If you like what you hear, leave us a thumbs up over on YouTube or a 5-star rating over on Apple Podcasts. Now, we'll talk about the actual matches here in a second, Austan, but let's dig in and talk motivation first. Which teams have the most on the line this weekend, whether it be relegation, anything else? Who cares about what happens for this weekend?
It's relegation. It all is tied up in three teams: Leicester, Everton, and Leeds. Southampton are already relegated, so between Leicester, Everton, and Leeds, two of those three are going down. Right now, Everton are on 33 points, while Leicester and Leeds have 31 points apiece. So Everton are the only one of the three that controls its own destiny. If Everton win at home against Bournemouth on Sunday, they're safe, and Leeds and Leicester will go down. If Everton draw or lose, it opens the door for a lot of other scenarios to play out. But those three teams are going to be pushing as hard as they can the full 90 minutes to get a win, do anything they can do to get a win. So even in the scenarios where if Everton draw or lose, Leeds and Leicester have to win their matches to have a chance to stay alive.
So do those wind up being like the premier matches of the weekend when that's on the line? Is it a situation where like the premier match is one where teams are trying to avoid relegation?
This year, yes, absolutely. Last year, we had a similar sort of scenario at the bottom of the table, but also the title was still up for grabs. So that becomes by far the biggest storyline. But yeah, the biggest storyline this weekend is who are the other teams that are going to go down besides Southampton.
All right, so plenty on the line right there. Let's now talk about these matches. As mentioned, 10 matches coming up on Sunday, Austan, all again at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. So let's start here with the traditional markets. When we start off with those, where are you seeing value right now at FanDuel Sportsbook?
I want to get exposure to Arsenal and the Arsenal-Wolves match, but I'm going to stay away from the minus 290 money line, and I'm going to focus on Arsenal in two markets, over 2.5 goals, which is plus 124, and then their first half money line, which is minus 130. Wolves and Arsenal, this is probably the most lopsided matchup at the final day. Arsenal have really crumbled down the stretch. They went from, having a pretty nice lead in the standings at the top of the table to heading into the final day with no chance to win it. So things have really fallen apart for them, but it somewhat has spoiled what's been a really great season for them. Even though Arsenal are struggling a little bit, there's still a massive canyon between them and Wolves. By FBref's expected goals model, Arsenal are third in expected goal differential at plus 27.6, while Wolves are 16th at minus 20.7. Arsenal's biggest issue down the stretch here has been defensively, but I don't think Wolves are going to be capable of taking advantage of it. Wolves are next to last in expected goals generated for the season, and they've been really bad on the road. Just 15.3 expected goals in 18 total away matches. So this matchup presents Arsenal with a golden chance to kind of right the ship here before the season's over and kind of wash some of the bad taste out of their mouths from their late season swoon. And I think they're going to take advantage of it and come out with their hair on fire. So that's why I'm backing them to win the first half, which is my favorite bet of the weekend. And I also think they score at least 3 goals.
Yeah, that first half money line, as you mentioned, minus 130 for Arsenal. The over 2.5 goals right now at FanDuel Sportsbook, plus 128 on Arsenal. And you think that it sounds like, based on what you're saying, you believe that the kind of sputtering down the stretch will be the motivation for Arsenal to kind of go out on the high note here, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you had told Arsenal fans before the year that they would be legit title contenders and finish second, they would have snapped your hand off and taken that in a heartbeat. So the way the season's finished, it's kind of spoiled what's been a really good year for them. And I think they are probably pretty desperate to try to end the year on somewhat of a high note.
Okay, so Arsenal 2.5 goals, over is plus 128, and Arsenal first half money line minus 130. Austan liking both those to get exposure to Arsenal without taking the straight up money line at minus 290. Anything else for you as far as the traditional markets on Sunday?
Yeah, something else I like is Fulham's chances to get at least a point against Manchester United at Old Trafford on Sunday. So I'm taking Fulham and draw, which is plus 155 in the double chance market. Part of the reason I'm down on Manchester United for this one is that they just played on Thursday night. And while that match and this upcoming one are both at home, it's still a significant rest disadvantage for them. Fulham's last game was this past Saturday. So Fulham are definitely going to be the more rested team. Another part of it is motivation. Neither of these teams have anything to play for technically, but this is the first match where you could say that for United. In the aforementioned Thursday match, they needed at least a point to clinch a spot in the top 4 and get in the Champions League for next year. They got more than a point by winning 4-1 over Chelsea. But I think there's a chance that the Red Devils take their foot off the gas on Sunday, either by putting out a weakened starting 11 and giving some guys a rest before their FA Cup final, which is coming up next weekend against Manchester City, or just subconsciously because they've already locked up their Champions League spot. Fulham is a solidly mid-table side. They haven't had much to play for a while. They've still taken a possible 7 points from a possible 9 over the last 3 matches. Then lastly, another reason I'm into Fulham is that they've played United twice this season, and they've played them really tough. They played them once in the league, once in the FA Cup quarterfinals. In the league, at Fulham, United scored in the 96th minute to win 2-1. In the FA Cup, which was also at Old Trafford, Fulham was up 1-0 after 70 minutes and then had 2 players sent off in the 72nd minute. So we had 2 in 1 minute. And then that led to United scoring 3 times against a 9-man Fulham over the final 15 minutes. So I think there's a few reasons I like Fulham. Now the rest on their side, United finally get to let their foot off the gas a little bit before they play a cup final next weekend. And then Fulham's played United very tough, both the games they've played so far this year. So I like Fulham to get at least a point out of this matchup.
And that's in the double chance market over at FanDuel Sportsbook, plus 155 for Fulham and draw bundled together. Now, we talked last week about how there was a bet on Monday where you wanted to hold off and see what the lineup looked like. And that's good because you can see what the lineup looks like, make sure all the guys are out there, but also the risk is that number may move, which is what happened last week. The bet hit, so that was good. Do you want to hold off and see what Manchester United's lineup looks like before taking this, or are you comfortable taking it now at plus 155?
I'm comfortable taking it now at plus 155, but I'm going to keep an eye on the market just
Sure.
because they're probably going to give you a hint about what type of lineup United roll
Right.
out. They have a way, of knowing these things before they happen. So, but yeah, I'm comfortable taking it at plus 155.
Some loose lips in the teams about who's going to start on Sunday can occasionally happen. I think we saw that with the line you were talking about last week. Okay, so Fulham and draw plus 155 in that one. Arsenal over 2.5 goals plus 128 in the Arsenal first half money line at minus 130. What about player props? What are you seeing there across Sunday's action, Austin?
So as we just talked about, or as you just brought up, 17 of the 20 teams have nothing to play for really. So we could get some funky lineups. And where I want to be patient and see lineups is with props.
Sure.
Both the props I have are on a player to score or assist, and I want to make sure that guy's in the lineup before I place the bet. So the first one is in the Arsenal and Wolves match. I'm taking Bukayo Saka to score or assist. It's minus 150, and that's a really nice number for their Arsenal's penalty taker in a match where they're massive favorites. He's got 24 goals plus assists in 36 Premier League starts. And as I laid out earlier, I'm really backing Arsenal. If they score 3, there's going to be a great chance that Saka is involved in one way or another. And as I said, he's their first choice penalty taker, which definitely helps things. Another prop I'm into is in the Everton-Bournemouth matchup. I'm into Damari Gray to score or assist, which was priced at minus 115 last I looked. I'm backing Gray under the assumption that Dominic Calvert-Lewin isn't able to play due to injury, which seems likely as of now. But if Calvert-Lewin is even just half fit, with how important this match is for Everton, they'll probably put him out there. If Calvert-Lewin starts, I'd rather take him to score or assist at his price, which was minus 135 last I looked. But this is actually a great matchup for Everton. Bournemouth are last in the league by expected goal differential. And as long as Calvert-Lewin is out, Gray is going to be on penalties. He's recorded 4 shots and 5 shot-creating actions over his past 2 matches. And as we talked about at the jump, Everton have everything to play for and will absolutely have their foot on the gas for 90 minutes to try to get a win, which is comforting to know. But also, again, want to state if Calvert-Lewin starts, I would rather take him to score or assist than Gray.
Yeah, that's minus 135 on Calvert-Lewin right now. Let's say that stays there. Would you take that one if he is in the lineup?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
And I think if he starts, that number will probably move.
Okay.
But yeah, so I was going to say there may be an edge to taking him now, but there's also a chance he doesn't start and they bring him on for 10 minutes at the end of a game. So
sure.
Yeah, that's just the risk you're taking if you make this bet now.
And I don't know house rules for soccer, as you know, it's not my my thing. I'm assuming if a player does not appear, bets are voided, correct? But if they appear for like 1 single minute, step foot on the pitch, then the bets are action, correct?
You're right. Yep.
Okay.
Some books handle it differently, but for FanDuel Sportsbook, if he gets on the pitch at all, then the bet will stand.
Okay, so if we get Dominic Calvert-Lewin in the lineup at minus 135, I had to find it on the sheet. I couldn't remember the name. He's minus 135. Austin does like that one. If he does not go, and it's Damari Gray instead, he is minus 110. And going back to the Arsenal one, Bukayo Saka to score or assist, minus 150. But again, check out lineups to see what they're looking like on Sunday to ensure that things are as expected, given it is the final match week of the year. That is Austan Kas. Check out his work over at numberFire.com. As mentioned, he has his EPL betting guide up right now over at numberFire if you want to read a written version of all this, and check out his work there. As always, awesome. Love to get you back on here to talk some Champions League, maybe with the big ones coming, the championship game coming up there eventually, because I have not gotten my fill of soccer just yet. So even though we're done with the EPL and I appreciate the work you've done, you're not off the hook yet. So you'll be back here in the very near future, and I'm looking forward to that. Thank you, Austin. Have a fantastic weekend.
Sounds good. Thank you, Jim. You too.
Alrighty, again, check out Austin on Twitter at Austan Kas, and he will be back with us. I'm excited for that, to talk more soccer in the near future because I've had a blast talking with him so far and don't want to give that up just yet. We're going to dive into some baseball for Friday and talk about some money lines and strikeout props I like in just 1 second. But first, make a fast break to FanDuel during the NBA playoffs because right now, new customers can get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. There's no better place to bet all the playoff action than America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. First online real money wager only. $10 deposit required. Refund issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino LLC. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG in Arizona. 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In Connecticut, 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat. In Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT. In Wyoming and Kansas, 1-800-522-4700 or in Kansas, ksgamblinghelp.com. Louisiana is 1-877-770-STOP. In Massachusetts, gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support. In Maryland, mdgamblinghelp.org. In New York, 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. And in West Virginia, go to 1-800-GAMBLER.net. Let's take a look here at some baseball for today across this Friday. We're recording later in the day than typically, so these are more efficient lines than usual. So I would keep that in mind. We are betting into a more mature market. That is always going to be a downside, but these are bets that are still showing value for me relative to their markets at FanDuel Sportsbook. The first one is a money line in the Cardinals and Guardians game. I do like the Cardinals money line at -102. This was a lot more favorable in favor of the Cardinals last night. I think it was +110 at one point. It's now -102. So it has moved, and you're not getting the best number. But I do still show value there. My model puts the Cardinals win odds at 56.7%, up from 50.5% implied. So a big gap, which could mean I am a bit off here, but a lot of wiggle room to be wrong and still be on the right side. Shane Bieber did bounce back in a pretty big way his most recent time out in the last 8 innings. And you could dig into Bieber's game logs and say, okay, his curveball velocity increased 5 starts ago. And maybe that's what led to this good outing last time out. However, when you look at the batted ball data for Bieber in that time, he is still letting up a ton of hard contact. In that sample, Bieber's hard hit rate allowed is 54%. He is facing a Cardinals offense that has a 118 WRC plus against righties. The Guardians offense does not hit lefties well. They're facing Matthew Liberatore. I think Liberatore looked really good in his first start, looked good in AAA. So even though this has moved to -102, I still think there's good value in the Cardinals at that number. So to me, the Cardinals, the right side here, -102 on the money line to topple the Guardians for today. The second money line is on a big-ish underdog, so understandable if you don't want to go there. And if you want to scale this bet, which you should, as always, when the odds of hitting are lower, I would totally understand. But the second money line I like is the Rockies. Their money line is +176 against the Mets. And the reason I feel good about this number is that my numbers are low on the Rocky starter, Connor Siebold. I do not view him very positively. And that does matter in the model. Despite being pretty low in Siebold, I'm still showing value on the Rockies here, which tells me I should probably have faith in what the model is saying. The Rockies hitting is awful. Their starting pitching in this matchup is not good. But they do have a pretty decent bullpen. Their defense is solid. That helps aid things, and those things do matter as well. As far as the Mets go, looking at their offense has not been bad this year by any means. They have got a 106 WRC plus against righties. I think they have some untapped potential if they were to get guys like Mark Vientos in there. If Brett Beatty starts to get the positive regression I think he's in store for. So it's very possible my numbers are underselling the Mets here. And that could be a thing, but they keep on rolling out suboptimal lineups. I'm okay betting into this situation where they just kind of keep on banging their head for better results. Max Scherzer still trying to find a groove. His past 2 starts have been good, but they haven't been typical Max Scherzer. So I don't view him as being typical Max Scherzer right now. The Rockies, not a team I want to be on super often personally, but there's always a tipping point where a bad team becomes a value. And I think we've crossed that threshold here with the Rockies. They're plus 176 to win. So again, scale properly, know that the odds this bet hits are well below 50%, but it's higher than the implied odds of plus 176. So to me, the two best money lines for tonight are the Cardinals at minus 102 and the Rockies at plus 176. As far as strikeout props go, if you've listened to the show here throughout this year, I tend to be on unders more often than overs. I'm looking at my logs of bets so far this year. I've had a lot more unders than I've had overs. However, for today, just kind of by circumstance, every strikeout prop I like is an over. So we're going with 4 separate overs here for strikeout props. And those begin with the Rangers at the Orioles. I like John Gray over 4.5 at minus 116, which you can again get at FanDuel Sportsbook. And now Gray is a guy I discussed unders on earlier on this year because wasn't using a slider a lot. And I thought that was a red flag because a lot of times you'll see guys cut back on slider usage when they're hurt. And I thought that might've been a red flag for John Gray, but 3 starts ago, he cut back on his four-seam fastball usage, instead using more off-speed stuff. And it is a small sample, but that shift for Gray seems to be working out very well. Across those 3 starts, he has had 8, 5, and 6 strikeouts. His swinging strike rate is 13.6%. 2 of those starts came on the road, which is where he's at for today. So he's not facing a bad offense. I actually like the Orioles a lot. I think they're a very good offense, and I don't want to go at them very often. But with Gray's new approach, where he's cut back on that four-seam fastball, we've seen a much different version of him. The numbers that stabilize quickly, aka that swinging strike rate, are saying he's a different pitcher, and he's gone over this number in all 3 starts. So it is a small sample, but the market here is pretty low. So I would say Gray over 4.5 strikeouts, a good place to go, and a bet I am very okay making, even though it is based on a pretty small sample. The second strikeout prop that I like is actually in an alternate market. If you go to the Twins and Blue Jays game, I'm on Louis Varland. Now, Louis Varland's baseline is over 4.5 at minus 152. I show value in that personally, but the alternate market to go with 6+ strikeouts for Varland is plus 144. And I do show value in that as well. So I'm going to go Louis Varland over 5.5 strikeouts, or to get 6+ strikeouts in the alt market at plus 144. Varland has been a different pitcher so far this year because his velo is up quite a bit from where it was last year. And as a result of that increased velo, his strikeouts are up. Across 5 starts, Varland has a 26.3% strikeout rate, and that number is legitimized by his 13.4% swinging strike rate. When you add the increased velocity, Varland has been getting a lot of strikeouts. He's had 6+ strikeouts in 4 of his 5 starts. Despite making just 2 starts at home, he is at home for tonight. Wind is slightly in at Target Field as well. He's facing the Blue Jays. Again, similar to John Gray, not a matchup I really want to go at because they have been hitting the ball pretty well. I think a lot of their batters are due for some positive regression. And the strikeout rate for the Blue Jays against righties is just 21.8%. So I understand why the market is low here on Varland. It's not a great spot, but given the increased velo, given that it's plus 144 on the over, I do like Varland in this spot. So to me, Louis Varland, 6+ strikeouts, a good place to go for a strikeout prop for tonight. The final 2 strikeout props I like are both in the same game. And there is some uncorrelation when you take 2 overs in the same game, but the roof is closed in Arizona for tonight, which is a good thing because it should keep the ball from flying as well as it typically would. And I think both these guys are just a bit undervalued. So I like the overs on Chris Sale and Brandon Pfaadt. Sale's over is 6.5 at plus 114. Pfaadt's over 3.5 strikeouts is minus 110 right now at FanDuel Sportsbook. Let's start things off here by talking about Sale. FanDuel is above market on Chris Sale. So you could shop around and get over 5.5. That's about minus 150. Other places, you can get that. And I checked the alternate markets at those sites to see if you can get a better number than plus 114 on Chris Sale. But I think the plus money on the over at a larger number is pretty tough to turn down. I have Sale projected at 7.51 strikeouts, which is why I am going to swing for the fences here at the 7+ strikeouts. He increased his four-seam fastball usage 4 starts ago, and it's led to a big spike in strikeouts. In that 4-start sample, Sale's strikeout rate is 30.8%. He also has been going super deep in games. So I talked about Gray with the decreased slider usage. That's a red flag. A green light is increased pitch count because it implies the pitcher feels good and the team feels good about having him go deep in games, especially for a guy with Sale where health is a massive issue. I think to me, that's a very good sign. 110 pitches and 111 his past 2 starts. So I do think you can play this 2 ways. If you want to go over 5.5 at a minus 150 or so number, you can do that for sure. I just think the preferred route is over 6.5 at plus 114, which you can get right now at FanDuel Sportsbook, because Sale has been much improved with a shift in his philosophy and been going super deep in games. Thought's number is over 3.5 at minus 110, and he's been pretty bad so far, and that has translated to the strikeout department, but I think his biggest struggles have been with hard contact. And you don't necessarily need to be dominant in that department to get an over on a strikeout prop at 3.5. The swing and strike rate for Fott so far is 10.4%. So with the strikeout rate being below 16%, that does imply there is room for some upward movement. And you look at his numbers in the minors, I think that would say the exact same thing. Even with the low strikeout rate, Fott has still been hovering around this number. Again, the market for him is 3.5. He's had 3, 3, 5, and 3 strikeouts in his first 4 games. Now that means he's gone under this one in 75%, which is not ideal, but I think that based on the swinging strike rate, we can expect his strikeout rate to increase. As a result of that, I have Fott projected for 4.7 strikeouts. It is a leap of faith given that he has not had strikeouts so far, but I think the peripherals imply, the underlying numbers imply that those will come soon. He needs just 4 strikeouts to get the over here. I've got him at 4.7. So I do like taking that. So both Fott and Sale in the exact same game, showing value for me. So the 4 strikeout overs I like for tonight. Again, weird, as I don't typically get to overs, but Fott over 3.5 strikeouts minus 110. Sale over 6.5 strikeouts plus 114. Both those in the Diamondbacks and Red Sox game. I like Varland in the alt markets over 5.5 strikeouts plus 144. And then John Gray over 4.5 strikeouts minus 116. All those available again at FanDuel Sportsbook. That is all that we have here for today and this week here on Covering the Spread. No show coming up on Monday because of the holidays. So no show then. Back with you on Tuesday. We'll talk some golf and maybe some basketball with Brandon Gadula on Tuesday as always. To get these shows as they go live, make sure you're subscribed to Covering the Spread wherever you get your podcasts. Again, if you want to check out some Indy 500 bets and talk some NASCAR as well, we had Dr. Nick Giffen of the Action Network on to break down the Coca-Cola 600 Indy 500 yesterday. Find that in the Covering the Spread podcast feed and over on the FanDuel YouTube page. Big thank you to Austan Kas for swinging by, breaking down EPL Match Week 38. Find him on Twitter at Austan Kas and check out his betting work over at numberFire.com. I am on Twitter at Jim Sannes, JIMSANNES. Want to thank you all for tuning in. Wish you a fantastic weekend. Be safe, have some fun, and we'll talk to you once again on Tuesday. Good luck with your bets across this weekend. This has been Covering the Spread right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network.